It's part 6 of our interview series with the great engineer-producer Bill Schnee. I'm John Beaudin from Rock History Music. In this one, how Whitney Houston, and this is a great story, how Whitney Houston nailed singing I Will Always Love You, that iconic Dolly Parton song. She sang it live at the end of that movie. Here's Bill Schnee.
The Whitney Houston thing with
Which one?
I Will Always Love You.
Uh-huh.
The first take, a little rough. Second take, and I didn't realize it was Kevin Costner's idea for her to record that song.
Yep. So you want the whole story?
Give me the whole story.
The whole story. The whole story is that all of the in the movie, The Bodyguard, she's singing on stage to the big audience. What she's really doing is lip syncing records that David Foster had recorded in the studio. And but she decided for the end title, or not title, it's the last scene in the movie, the sad last scene in the movie, that it's a ballad. I Will Always Love You is a ballad, and the camera's going to be right in her face, as it were. So she didn't want to try to lip sync. She knew that, ballads are tough to lip sync, especially if you have any kind of emotion in the performance. Not as easy as when you're locked down with a driving track. So she wanted to do it live. So David called me up and said, told me the story and said, get a truck and meet me in Florida at the Fontainebleau Hotel, which is where they're going to record that last scene. And of course, it wasn't on a big stage like it looks like in the movie. It was in actually just one of the multi-purpose rooms in the hotel that had a small stage and a crew of about 20, 25 people. And yes, what was amazing, we got it all set up and went in and started on the first take. And lo and behold, this girl that had sung many times in front of 20, 25,000 people, and a couple of big things of 100,000, with this 25 people in the room, was very obviously nervous. And it really surprised me. And so those first few takes weren't what you would have expected at all. Finally, they took a little bit of a break, let her shake it off. She came back. The next one was pretty darn good. But then Kevin Costner came in the truck at that point. And when he walked in, we talked about it. I said, she's obviously nervous. And he said, yeah, but she'll get it. She's going to settle down. And so take 4 was pretty darn good. But let me tell you, when take 5 happened and she went at that end and she hit "And I guarantee you there were every neck in the house had hair standing up straight. It was just amazing. And then like a good director would obviously do, that was perfect. Let's just do one more for protection. Yeah. And 6 was every bit as good.
What was that experience like with him? Because, at one point he was telling me about leaving the industry after, because the Zombies never lasted a long time. Of course, now they've been together a long time. And he laughed and I think he went into insurance, he says. I said, weren't there people saying, aren't you Colin Blunstone? Hey, tell me about that time, But he's so unassuming in that way. What was it like working with him?
Yeah, fabulous. That was one of the 2 records I produced for Elton's label, which unfortunately,
Rocket,
had its problems with a lot of those artist labels suffered from that. He was under MCA, I believe, at the time, and the promotion is the big thing. You got to have promotion to get a record going, and they make less money on these kind of earmarked records than they do on their own records. So whether that's the reason or not, I don't know, but they had their promotion problems. But being a huge fan of that voice, and I don't know who couldn't be. So when I was looking for songs for him, a friend of mine gave me the song "Never Even Thought," and it was one of those times. Doesn't happen all the time, but one of those times when the first time I heard it, I had the idea of how I was going to lay it out. The basic arrangement was going to be completely. And the night before before the first session, I invited the band over with Colin to meet him and whatnot, and just sit around talking. And I played him some of the songs that we were going to do. And I remember when I played that one, from Murray Head wrote that. It was on his album. I think it's the title of his album, Never Even Thought, I think. I don't know. Anyway, I started telling him what I wanted to do with it and whatnot. I was very excited about it. So I usually, like I said, I like to move pretty quickly, and I had an all-star band. So there's no reason other than the fact that maybe on that song I was trying too hard, which happens sometimes. I find that mixing things that I produced, a lot of times I don't mix them as well as I do for somebody else. And I think it's because I care too much. You know, the friggin' left brain gets in the way of the right brain. You know, it messes things up. But anyway, so it took like 6 hours to get that track, which is a little long for me. And when I was done, everybody went home. Just to make sure that I hadn't, knowing that I'd been pushing them, I went back and listened to some of the earlier takes, and I noticed at the end of one of the very first takes that at the end of it, Jeff, as will often happen, guys will at the end of a fade, what will become a fade. Of course, they're playing it at full volume because it had, he started fooling around and he made all these crazy drum fills and stuff. And I went, "You don't suppose, do you?" And I went back and checked with the stopwatch the tempo of that take literally 5 hours earlier, and it was right on. No click. That's Jeff Porcaro's brain. Absolutely amazing. And so I took those fills and I cut them into the fade. And the next day when the band came back, I overdubbed everybody. I overdubbed the fade again from that point out, so that it sounds like it was all arranged that way, but it really wasn't. And the James Newton Howard who was Elton's second keyboard player for several years, has gone on to become one of the best film composers in the world, nominated again for an Academy Award. Here's hoping he wins one finally. But he played piano and electric piano on that, and just unbelievable stuff, just incredible musicianship from him. And then working on Colin's album, we went to England and we did a string date on a couple of things that James wrote an amazing string chart on. And so that song, when people ask, what's your favorite thing you've ever done? I said, well, it's like your favorite band, your favorite session. No, I wouldn't want to do that to everybody else because there, fortunately for me, there have been quite a few. But I will say that when it comes to the favorite thing I've ever produced, right up there, and JoJo is another one, but right up there is Colin's cut of Never Even Thought. And the darn thing is not on Spotify. It is on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I got to talk to Spotify. Come on, guys. The only thing about it is, speaking of trying too hard, I really know I could have mixed it better. And I knew it at the time. I just, whatever. But I've always wished that I could get my hands on that tape and remix it. But it's quite a thing for me with his voice is great. The whole thing, I just loved it.
We'll have more from Bill Schnee coming up in 3-4 days. His new book is out, Chairman of the Board, The Soundtrack of a Generation. There'll be links in the description of this video and to his website where you can order the book. Make sure you comment on our video, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. Also, if you want to make a donation to the site, there's a link at the very top of the description. You can also pick up a t-shirt. I'm John Beaudin. Take care of yourself.